days, we have received somber news about the passing of extraordinary talents. Today's episode is dedicated to honoring their memory. Additionally, we will recap the stars we have recently lost. Before we begin, we kindly ask for your support. If this video or the legacies of these remarkable individuals have touched your life, please consider giving this video a thumbs up as a sign of respect and remembrance. Thank you. In the quiet morning of February 24, 2025, at her home in New York, Roberta Flack gently slipped away, surrounded by those she loved most. 2 years earlier, she had shared with the world that she was living with ALS, a condition that gradually silenced her singing voice, but never her spirit. The world didn't lose a performer that day. It gained a legacy that will echo for generations. Roberta's music was more than sound. It was sanctuary. From the hushed power of "The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face" to the soul-stirring "Killing Me Softly," her songs didn't just top charts. They nestled into hearts. She was the first artist to win back-to-back Grammy Awards for Record of the Year, a testament to her rare ability to speak to universal emotion through quiet strength. Her story wasn't paved with ease. She began her career as a teacher, performing in small clubs by night, building a foundation of grace and resilience. Even as fame brought her into the spotlight, she carried humility and purpose. She stood for civil rights, mentored young musicians, and founded the Roberta Flack School of Music, believing that every child deserved the power of song. "Through music, we understand what we are thinking and feeling," she once said, and through her, we found understanding. Tributes poured in from artists like John Legend and Ariana Grande, who called her timeless. But perhaps the greatest tribute is this. When we hear her voice, we remember who we were, who we loved, and the beauty of feeling deeply. Roberta Flack remains, gently, forever, with us. Angie Stone was a voice of strength, soul, and truth, an artist whose music spoke not only to the charts, but to the hearts of millions. In the early hours of March 1st, 2025, on a quiet stretch of Highway 65 near Montgomery, Alabama, Angie Stone's journey came to an end. Traveling back to Atlanta after a performance, she was involved in a tragic highway collision that took her life. She was 63. As news of her passing spread, hearts around the world mourned the loss of a voice that had brought truth, warmth, and resilience to generations. From the raw energy of the sequences "Funk You Up" to the emotional weight of "Wish I Didn't Miss You," Angie didn't just sing, she testified. Her music was rooted in gospel, shaped by life's struggles, and lifted by unshakable faith. Her 2001 album "Mahogany Soul" captured the essence of a woman grounded in her roots, unafraid to share her soul. With each lyric, she reminded us that vulnerability was a form of power. Born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina, Angie grew up in a home filled with music and love. Her voice reached millions, yet her story remained deeply personal. "I feel complete," she once said. "I've been through it all, and I'm still standing." That strength defined her. Through illness, industry battles, and personal storms, she kept singing, because the music, like her spirit, never stopped flowing. Today, tributes flood in, from fans, fellow artists, and the community she uplifted. Her longtime publicist wrote, "Angie's voice and spirit will live on forever in the hearts of those she touched." And so it will. Her songs, her honesty, her fight, they live on in every note she left behind. Angie Stone didn't just make music, she gave us a part of herself. And that gift is forever. Marianne Faithful passed away peacefully on January 30th, 2025, at her London home, surrounded by the love of her family. She was 78. The world lost not only a remarkable singer and actress, but a woman who turned every scar into song. Though her official cause was not made public, Marianne had long faced serious health challenges, with quiet strength and unshakable grace. Her story began with the soft ache of As Tears Go By, a song that captured youthful innocence. But her legacy was built in fire, through battles with addiction, loss, and reinvention. Broken English marked a bold new voice, cracked with truth, fearless in tone. Her music aged like fine parchment, weathered, authentic, unforgettable. "I just have to open my mouth, and there it is," she once said. Born of noble roots yet drawn to rebellion, Marianne lived between worlds, convent halls and backstage chaos, museum whispers and rock and roll roars. She survived not by escaping the past, but by transforming it into something brave and deeply human. From theater to cabaret, from the Stones to solo stages, she remained ever evolving. Today, artists and admirers across generations honor her. "She made art out of survival," one tribute read. Her son Nicholas and 3 grandchildren now carry her story forward. But Marianne's voice, aching, raw, utterly real, remains etched in every note she left behind. In the silence after her songs, we still hear her, and we remember. Breaking news. Neil Diamond was never just a singer. He was a storyteller wrapped in denim and melody, a man whose voice knew how to climb mountains and how to sit quietly beside your sadness. For decades, he stood not only on stages, but inside our lives. His music entered softly at first, through transistor radios, vinyl grooves, and jukeboxes. But once it found a place in your heart, it never really left. From love songs whispered in the corner of a wedding reception to stadium anthems that united tens of thousands in a single chorus, Neil Diamond's voice became a companion to generations. But behind that unforgettable voice was a man whose path to greatness was never guaranteed. In fact, his journey was full of detours, doubt, resistance, and resilience. His success was not the product of overnight fame or media machinery. It was the slow, steady work of a man committed to honesty over hype, authenticity over image. In a world that often rewards flash over feeling, Neil Diamond built a legacy on something far more enduring: truth. Let us walk that journey together now, not just through his music, but through the story of how that music came to be. Neil was born in Brooklyn, New York, in a world of modest means but endless possibility. Like many American kids in the 1950s, his days were spent bouncing between classes and sidewalks, street corners, and dreams. He showed early interest in both athletics and academics, surprising those around him with how effortlessly he could toggle between the two. Among his lesser-known talents, fencing. Yes, before the guitars and gold records, Neil Diamond was a nationally competitive fencer, good enough to earn a scholarship to New York University. It was at NYU that Neil imagined a very different life, one rooted not in spotlight, but in science. He studied chemistry and biology, with a focus on pre-med, hoping to one day become a researcher, maybe even a cancer specialist. The drive was personal. A close family member's illness had inspired him to pursue medicine. But in the quiet spaces between lectures and labs, another calling began to hum. He was given a guitar for his birthday when he was 16, a used one, nothing fancy. But what it unlocked in him was beyond anything a textbook could offer. With that guitar, he began to write. And when he could not afford gifts for the people he loved, he turned to melody. His first song was a marriage proposal in disguise, a high school boy's hopeful heart put to music. Have you ever stumbled into something that felt more like fate than choice? For Neil Diamond, the more he played, the more he wrote, the clearer it became. This was not a hobby. It was a purpose. But purpose does not pay the rent, not at first. In the early 1960s, Neil left college just shy of graduation and entered the unforgiving world of Tin Pan Alley. For those unfamiliar, Tin Pan Alley was the nickname for the part of New York where songwriters pitched their work to music publishers, hoping for a bite. Just one artist, one label, one moment. At first, he earned $50 a week, living frugally and stretching every coin. Some days, lunch was a sandwich and a soda bought with change scraped from his pocket. But Neil never complained. This was the price of building something honest. He spent years knocking on doors, writing songs for others, trying to figure out what the industry wanted, only to realize in time that what the world needed was something more vulnerable, more real. He did not just want to write clever lines. He wanted to say something, to mean something. And slowly, that determination began to shape his identity, not as a hired hand, but as a voice of his own. His breakthrough came in 1966 with Cherry, Cherry. Ironically, it was a song he had not planned to finish. It began as a casual guitar riff, a playful experiment, but with encouragement from producers, it evolved into a full track, one with a bouncing beat and infectious charm. It reached the top 10 and introduced the world to a new sound, vibrant, organic, and unmistakably Diamond. But Neil was never one to chase formulas. As soon as he tasted success, he began to resist its trappings. Where others might have doubled down on bubblegum pop, Neil turned inward. He began writing songs with introspection, songs that wrestled with identity, isolation, ambition, and aging. One of the most profound examples was Solitary Man, which initially charted modestly. But it gained new meaning as Neil grew older, and as listeners discovered how deeply personal it truly was. At the time of writing it, he may not have fully known what the song meant. But years later, through reflection and therapy, he realized he had written his own story without realizing it. A young man, striving and struggling, moving through the world as a solitary figure. Have you ever created something before you understood why it mattered? For Neil, songwriting became a mirror, not just a career, but a form of self-discovery. However, this honest approach to music did not sit well with everyone, especially the record labels. One early label, Bang Records, wanted more Cherry Cherry, more upbeat, formulaic hits. Neil wanted the freedom to grow. That creative tension turned to conflict. And when he refused to conform, the pushback became serious, even threatening. The industry can be brutal to those who walk away. But Neil walked anyway. The details are murky, but the pressure he faced during that transition was not just professional, it was personal and even dangerous. Yet through it all, he held firm. What he wanted more than fame was creative integrity, and he fought for it. That period produced some of his most timeless work. Brooklyn Roadhouse, for example, is a tender and vivid recollection of his roots. It is a song about memory, identity, and the places that shape us. After writing it, he once reflected that his entire life became material for his music. He was no longer just writing about the world around him, he was writing from within it. And the world responded. Through the 1970s and 1980s, Neil Diamond evolved into a household name. He packed stadiums, released platinum albums, and wrote songs that became fixtures in American culture. But perhaps most impressively, he never lost the depth. Songs like Love on the Rocks, I Said, and September Morn carried the same emotional weight as his earlier work, but now with the wisdom of experience. And then came Sweet Caroline. Though it was not his highest charting hit, it became his most beloved. At first, it was just another track on the radio, but somewhere along the way, it became something more, a communal ritual. It was sung at weddings and school dances, at baseball games and karaoke bars. It became, unexpectedly, a cultural anthem. How many songs do you know that people still sing, together, joyfully, decades after their release? That is the mark of something larger than entertainment. That is legacy. Of course, Diamond also ventured beyond music. He scored films, he even took on acting, starring in The Jazz Singer in 1980. While the film received mixed reviews, it offered a new outlet for his creativity. And like everything he did, he approached it not with ego, but with sincerity. In private, his life was less about the spotlight and more about relationships. He married, had children, and later found love again. But through it all, music remained his constant, his sanctuary. By the time he entered the 2000s, Neil Diamond had already done more than most artists could dream of. 21 platinum albums, dozens of chart-topping singles, thousands of performances across the globe. Yet what stood out was not just the quantity of his work, but its consistency. He never pandered. He never compromised. Even when trends shifted and radio formats changed, Neil stayed true. And then, in 2018, came the announcement. He would no longer tour. It was not just a career decision. It was a moment of vulnerability. For a man whose life had been shaped on stage, stepping away meant letting go of a lifelong rhythm. But it was done with grace, with love, with gratitude. He thanked his fans. He promised to keep writing. And then, quietly, he disappeared from the spotlight. But he never disappeared from our lives. Since then, Neil has made only a handful of public appearances. Yet every time he does, the room still leans in. In one unforgettable moment, he surprised firefighters near his Colorado home by singing Sweet Caroline during a crisis. No stage, no lights, just a man and a song. And that moment reminded everyone why his voice still matters. It is not just the tone or the melody, it is the sincerity. Neil Diamond never chased applause. He chased connection. Even now, as his public performances grow fewer, his influence continues. Tribute concerts, cover bands, and new generations discovering his catalog on streaming platforms all point to the same truth. Some music does not fade. It finds new life in new hearts. So what makes Neil Diamond's legacy so powerful? It is not just the sales or the stadiums. It is the way he made people feel. He wrote songs that walked with you through breakups and breakthroughs, celebrations and silence. His lyrics were not complicated, but they were true. And that truth created space for reflection, for joy, for healing. He was never the flashiest, the most fashionable, or the most experimental, but he was enduring. And in that endurance, he became essential. In a world that often rewards what is loudest or latest, Neil Diamond reminds us that there is still room for honesty, for melody, for messages that come from the heart. So if you find yourself humming one of his tunes today or hearing his voice float through an open window, pause. Let it take you somewhere, back to a memory, forward to a feeling, towards something real. And if this story touched you, take a moment to share it. Tell us, what Neil Diamond song means the most to you? What moment in your life carries his soundtrack? Tap like. Leave a comment. And subscribe if you would like to hear more voices that shape the soul of a generation. Because voices like Neil Diamond's, they are not just heard, they are felt, and they are never truly gone. Johnny Rodriguez, a groundbreaking voice in country music, passed away on May 9, 2025, at age 73, while in hospice care. His daughter, Aubrey Rodriguez, confirmed his passing, citing health complications. Though the cause was not specified, what remains clear is the profound imprint he left on American music and on those who loved him most. Born in Sabinal, Texas, just miles from the Mexican border, Johnny became the first major Mexican-American artist to break into country music's mainstream. With a voice both soulful and steady, he brought a new sound to Nashville, one that wove Spanish lyrics and borderland rhythm into classic country storytelling. Songs like Ridin' My Thumb to Mexico and That's the Way Love Goes made him a star, while his heartfelt performances earned him 6 1 hits and a place in the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame. Rodriguez's path was not without struggle. Raised in a modest home as one of 10 siblings, he was discovered while singing in jail and went on to chart decades of success. He knew personal loss, public controversy, and hardship, but always returned to music with sincerity and strength. "He gave people like me hope," wrote country legend George Strait, paying tribute to a fellow South Texan and musical pioneer. In her own moving tribute, Aubrey remembered her father as more than a legend. He was warmth, humor, and heart to everyone who knew him. Today, fans mourn a voice that helped shape a genre and celebrate the man whose songs gave voice to pride, pain, and enduring love. Jill Sobul, the bold and brilliant singer-songwriter whose music broke boundaries and touched countless hearts, passed away on May 1, 2025, in a tragic house fire in Woodbury, Minnesota. She was 66. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the fire, which took her life while she was staying with close friends. Her passing leaves a space in music and in the hearts of many that cannot be filled. With her 1995 hit, "I Kissed a Girl," Jill gave voice to themes that had long been left in silence, becoming one of the first openly queer artists to find success on mainstream charts. But her artistry went far beyond that moment. Across 12 albums and decades of work, she wrote about everything from politics to adolescence, from heartbreak to hope, with humor, honesty, and an unshakable sense of self. A native of Denver, Jill's music and spirit found their way into film, television, theater, and people's living rooms. She co-created the autobiographical musical FCK 7th Grade, performed at the GLAAD Awards, and pioneered crowdfunding models for independent artists. Whether writing for Clueless, Nickelodeon's Unfabulous, or live streaming from a friend's living room during the pandemic, she always made space for joy, rebellion, and truth. She wasn't just a client, she was family, said her longtime attorney Ken Hertz. Her manager, John Porter, called her a force of nature, and indeed, she was. Jill Sobul's legacy is not only her songs, but her courage to be fully herself. And in doing so, she showed others they could be too. Dwayne Wiggins, guitarist, producer, and founding member of the legendary R&B trio, Tony, passed away on March 8, 2025, at the age of 64, surrounded by family and loved ones. After a year-long private battle with bladder cancer, he left this world as he lived, with grace, resilience, and deep devotion to music and community. A native of Oakland, California, Wiggins helped shape the sound of a generation. With his brother Raphael Saadiq and cousin Christian Riley, Tony fused R&B, gospel, and jazz into unforgettable hits like Anniversary, It Never Rains in Southern California, and Lay Your Head on My Pillow. Their work became a cornerstone of the New Jack Swing era, a soundtrack for love, celebration, and cultural pride. Even beyond the spotlight, Wiggins' influence ran deep. He mentored young talents who would rise to global stardom: Zendaya, Her, Kalani, and Destiny's Child among them. He wasn't just a performer. He was a builder of dreams, a cultivator of voices yet to be heard. His legacy lived not only in platinum records, but in the artists and communities he lifted up along the way. In a statement his family shared, Dwayne's life was incomparable. He remained committed and present for his family, his music, his fans, and his community. His final project, a long-awaited reunion with the original Tony lineup, reminded the world what soulful storytelling sounds like and why it matters. As the beat fades, his rhythm lives on, in memory, in melody, and in every life he touched. Jesse Colin Young, the soulful frontman of the Youngbloods whose voice gave wings to the anthem Get Together, passed away at his home in Aiken, South Carolina, on March 16, 2025, at the age of 83. He suffered a heart attack, leaving behind a world forever touched by his message of unity, compassion, and peace. With his gentle yet powerful voice, Jesse invited a generation to smile on your brother and try to love one another right now. That message, captured in the Youngbloods' enduring hit, became the spiritual pulse of the 1960s. Though he didn't write the song, he lived its values, carrying its spirit through a lifetime of music that reflected deep love for nature, family, and humanity. Beyond the charts, Jesse was a poet of everyday life. From the country soul reflections of Song for Julie to his 2021 release Highway Troubadour, he turned personal journeys into melodies that resonated across time. He faced life's storms with grace, overcoming illness, the loss of his beloved California home, and personal doubt, only to rise again, inspired by the energy of young musicians, especially his son Tristan. "Whatever light went off in my heart came back on," he once shared. His wife and manager, Connie, remembered him not only as an artist, but as her life's companion. Publicist Michael Jensen described Jesse as one of the nicest people on the planet. And perhaps that was his true gift, not just his music, but his humanity. Jesse's voice may rest, but his call for love still echoes, soft as a breeze, steady as a heartbeat. Chris Jasper, the classically trained composer who helped define the golden era of R&B and soul, passed away on February 23, 2025, at the age of 73, following a private battle with cancer. He died surrounded by loved ones, leaving behind a legacy that shaped generations and lives on in every chord he ever played. As a member of the Isley Brothers from 1973 to 1983, Chris infused the group's sound with elegance and depth. Behind the keys, he co-wrote and arranged iconic songs like For the Love of You, Between the Sheets, and Fight the Power. His contributions transformed the band from a vocal trio into a fully self-contained powerhouse of soul and funk. Chris wasn't just a musician, the Isley Brothers wrote. He was a genius. His music shaped generations. After forming Isley Jasper Isley and later launching his solo career, Chris continued to create, producing 17 albums, including chart-topping hits like Superbad, which championed education and self-empowerment. He nurtured talent through his label Gold City Records, always rooted in purpose and faith, delivering both gospel and groove with grace. Beyond the awards, including inductions into the Rock and Roll and Songwriters Halls of Fame, Chris Jasper's truest achievement was the way his music continues to move us. Artists from Beyoncé to Jay-Z, Gwen Stefani to Snoop Dogg have sampled his sound, proof that his fingerprints remain on today's most beloved rhythms. His wife Margie, their sons Michael, Nicholas, and Christopher, and countless admirers now carry forward the warmth he left behind. Chris Jasper was more than a man of music. He was its steward, its sculptor, and its soul. His melody lives on, resonating in the hearts of all who listen. Brenton Wood, the velvet-voiced soul singer behind 1960s classics, the Oogum Boogum Song and Gimme Little Sign, passed away peacefully on January 3, 2025, at the age of 83. He died of natural causes at his home in Moreno Valley, California, surrounded by family and friends. His final words, gently spoken to his longtime manager, were filled with his signature charm, "Catch you on the rebound." Born Alfred Jesse Smith in Shreveport, Louisiana, and raised in California, Brenton blended sweet soul, doo-wop, and pop into a sound uniquely his own. He found chart success in 1967, but his music never faded. The Oogum Boogum Song lived on through generations, making memorable appearances in films like Don't Worry, Darling and Almost Famous. He was more than a performer. He was a storyteller who made listeners feel like old friends. Wood's career spanned decades, with 9 albums and a record label of his own. Yet beyond stages and studios, he was deeply committed to his community. He performed in schools, spoke to at-risk youth, and offered a message of resilience and joy. His legacy wasn't just in the notes he sang, but in the lives he uplifted. The world has lost a voice, but not the light it carried. Brenton's music remains a timeless echo of love, groove, and hope. As his fans and loved ones grieve, they hold fast to the rhythm he left behind, and his smiling promise that he'll catch us on the rebound. On what should have been a day of celebration, his 39th birthday, Kenneth Young Scooter Bailey lost his life in a heartbreaking accident that shocked the Atlanta music community. On March 28, 2025, as he fled a tense situation outside a southeast Atlanta home, Scooter suffered a fatal injury to his upper thigh while attempting to jump fences. The autopsy later confirmed it was not gun-related, but a tragic accident caused by sharp fencing material. He died at Grady Marcus Trauma Center shortly after. Young Scooter was more than a rapper. He was a storyteller for the streets, a voice for those who live between survival and aspiration. Emerging from Atlanta's vibrant hip-hop scene in the early 2000s and 10s, he rose to prominence with the breakout hit Columbia, then cemented his status through collaborations with Future, Young Thug, and Gucci Mane. His music was honest, raw, and fiercely grounded in his reality, and for many it was their reality too. His death was made more painful by the revelation that a false 911 call may have triggered the police response that led to his flight. The woman behind the call has since been arrested, deepening the sense of injustice. Still, police made clear there were no shots fired by officers, no use of force, just a series of tragic choices and a fatal misstep. Rest in power, Scooter. Your hustle spoke louder than words, one fan posted, echoing a sentiment felt citywide. His legacy is not just in charts, but in truth-telling, a life of grit, now a memory too powerful to forget. His music lives on, unfiltered and unflinching, a reminder of a man who kept it real to the very end. Wayne Lewis, the soulful voice and creative force behind Atlantic Starr, left this world on June 5, 2025, at the age of 68. He passed away after collapsing on a treadmill despite immediate medical efforts. His family shared that Wayne was committed to health and living fully, a reflection of the discipline he brought to music and life. He was pronounced gone just 20 minutes after arriving at the hospital, leaving behind a legacy both profound and enduring. As a founding member, lead vocalist, keyboardist, and songwriter, Wayne was instrumental in shaping the smooth yet powerful sound of Atlantic Starr. From timeless ballads like Always and Secret Lovers to the vibrant rhythm of Circles, his music became the soundtrack of countless lives. With his brothers David and Jonathan, Wayne turned family ties into a lasting musical bond that touched hearts across decades. Fans around the world poured out tributes, remembering him as the voice of a generation and a great songwriter whose music brought love and light. The band, formed in 1976 in White Plains, New York, rose to national acclaim with Wayne's voice at its center, earnest, unmistakable, and full of soul. He was also a musical director and producer, guiding Atlantic Starr through evolving lineups and changing times, never losing the essence of their sound. Wayne's final years were filled with grace, performing with Atlantic Starr into his 60s and releasing their final album Metamorphosis in 2017. In a family statement, brother David Lewis wrote, "Though we don't yet understand why his life was cut short, we are holding to faith." Indeed, Wayne Lewis gave the world not just music, but memories that will continue to sing in our hearts. Rick Buckler, the rhythmic force behind the Jam's meteoric rise, passed away on February 17, 2025, in Woking, UK, at the age of 69. Though the exact cause was not disclosed, his recent health struggles had forced him to step back from his spoken word tour, a testament to his continued devotion to music and storytelling until the very end. Beyond the Jam, Rick continued to chase his creative spark with projects like Time UK and Sharp, later joining The Gift in 2005. In 2015, he looked back on his journey in his candid memoir, That's Entertainment, My Life in the Jam, offering fans a rare glimpse into the man behind the drum kit. His legacy extends beyond the stage, into pages, memories, and the very rhythm of British rock. As drummer and founding member of the Jam, Rick helped shape an era. His sharp, innovative beats powered anthems like Town Called Malice and Going Underground, which captured the spirit of British youth in the late 70s. With 18 straight UK top 40 hits, the Jam's legacy endures, and Rick's drumming remains its heartbeat. Bandmates Paul Weller and Bruce Foxton remembered Rick not only for his talent, but for the brotherhood they shared. "We went far beyond our dreams," Weller wrote. Foxton added, "His innovative patterns helped shape our songs." Rick leaves behind his wife Leslie, their 2 children, and an unshakable imprint on the soul of a generation. British guitarist John Sykes, renowned for his electrifying work with Thin Lizzy and Whitesnake, passed away at age 65 on January 21, 2025, following a courageous battle with cancer, according to his official statement. Diagnosed years ago, he fought bravely, with family and fans by his side, and remained grateful for their unwavering support until the end. Sykes first rose to prominence with Thin Lizzy, joining in 1982 and contributing to their final albums Thunder and Lightning and Life. His sharp guitar riffs brought a powerful new voice to the band during its farewell tour. In 1984, he joined Whitesnake, co-writing and recording on their 1987 monster hit album, crafting signature tracks like Still of the Night and Is This Love, songs that sold over 20 million records worldwide, cementing his place in rock history. Tributes poured in from across the rock universe. Whitesnake founder David Coverdale shared cherished memories of their time together, while legendary guitarist Slash wrote simply, "R.I.P. John Sykes." Drummer Carmine Appice, Sykes' bandmate in Blue Murder, described him as amazing. "I loved him like a brother." These words reflect the warmth and respect he inspired beyond his extraordinary talent. From the blazing solos in Thin Lizzy to the polished power chords of Whitesnake and the intense hard rock of Blue Murder, John Sykes left an indelible mark on guitar music. Known as much for his generosity and charisma offstage as his musical creativity on stage, described as thoughtful, kind, charismatic, Sykes played with passion and integrity until the very end. His legacy endures in music that still inspires generations. Rest in power, John Sykes. Your strings still echo with light. Robert John, the tender voice behind the 1979 chart-topping ballad Sad Eyes, passed away on February 24, 2025, at the age of 79. Though no cause of death was immediately announced, the beloved singer was recovering from a stroke in recent years. His passing was confirmed by his son, Michael Pedrick, who reflected, "He was a really great dad." Born Robert John Pedrick Jr. in Brooklyn, he found his calling in music early, charting at just 12 years old with White Bucks and Saddle Shoes. Through the 1960s and 70s, John built a quiet but persistent career, singing doo-wop, writing for Motown, and lending his voice to others. In 1972, his rendition of The Lion Sleeps Tonight became a surprise hit, reaching #1, 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Yet his greatest success and most enduring legacy came 7 years later with the haunting ballad Sad Eyes, which soared to number 1 and earned him a Grammy nomination. Behind the spotlight, John's journey was far from easy. After early career setbacks, he worked construction before reuniting with producer George Tobin in 1978. The two crafted Sad Eyes with painstaking care, and its slow climb to the top of the charts marked a poignant victory for an artist who never gave up. "I look at the charts and see my name, but I still have trouble believing it's really me," he said at the time. Robert John is survived by 4 sons, grandsons, and his partner of 10 years, Susan. His family, his music, and his quiet resilience define his legacy. Though his Sad Eyes captured heartbreak, Robert's life was one of love, perseverance, and enduring song. His voice may be gone, but his melodies echo still. Douglas McCarthy, the iconic voice and creative force behind industrial dance pioneers Nitzer Ebb, passed away on June 11, 2025, at the age of 58. His bandmates confirmed the heartbreaking news, asking fans to respect the privacy of his family during this time. Though no official cause of death was given, McCarthy had publicly shared in 2024 that he was battling liver cirrhosis following years of alcohol abuse. "For over 2 years I have not been drinking," he had written, but recovery is a long process. McCarthy's presence on stage was visceral, a preacher of pulsating defiance, rallying fans through clenched fists and raw shouts. Formed in 1982 with childhood friends, Nitzer Ebb emerged from Essex with a stripped-down electronic ferocity. Their single "Join in the Chant" electrified dance floors, their sound-bridging punk attitude with body-moving techno rhythms. They toured with Depeche Mode, influenced future legends like 9 Inch Nails, and helped shape the genre of electronic body music, EBM. Following Nitzer Ebb's initial split in 1995, McCarthy explored design, film, and advertising before returning to music. His collaborations with producer Terence Fixmer reignited his passion, and in 2010 the group released their final album, Industrial Complex. His 2012 solo record, Kill Your Friends, captured his defiant spirit one last time. Tributes have poured in, with Dark Entries Records calling him a tour de force of musical innovation. McCarthy's voice wasn't just sound, it was declaration, conviction, movement. For those who danced to his battle cries in darkened clubs, his absence now leaves an echo. Douglas McCarthy is gone, but his music lives on, in every chant, every beat, and every body that still dares to move. Brian James, the electrifying guitarist and chief songwriter who co-founded The Damned and ignited the British punk movement, passed away on March 6, 2025, at the age of 74. His family shared the news through a simple post, "One of the true pioneers of music." While the cause of his passing was not disclosed, the outpouring of tributes spoke volumes about his impact. Brian's vision of a music revolution had been absolutely spot on, recalled Captain Sensible, his longtime bandmate. "Boy, do I feel lucky he chose me." Born Brian Robertson in 1951, James channeled his early influences, from Chuck Berry to Peter Green, into a guitar style that was raw, urgent, and unforgettable. In 1976, he co-founded The Damned, releasing New Rose, widely recognized as the first British punk single. His songwriting defined the band's early albums, including Damned, 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 a record that reshaped rock with its defiant energy. Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin once called him the Riffmeister, a testament to James's melodic force within punk's gritty rebellion. Though The Damned fractured after 2 albums, James never stopped forging new paths. He formed the Lords of the New Church with Stiv Bators, delivering dark, anthemic tracks like Open Your Eyes. He collaborated with legends including Iggy Pop and Stuart Copeland, later reuniting with his former bandmates for anniversary tours that reignited punk nostalgia for generations. Brian James leaves behind his wife Minna and son Charlie, but also a global family of fans, artists, and rebels who found their fire in his songs. His music wasn't just loud, it was liberating. And though his amplifier has gone quiet, the tremble of his chords still echoes, reminding us of a time when rock bared its teeth and dared to change everything. Ryan White Maloney, the gifted singer who captured national attention on The Voice in 2014, passed away on January 28, 2025, in Las Vegas, Nevada. He was 44. Known for his powerhouse vocals and soulful performances, Ryan turned all four judges' chairs with his unforgettable rendition of Journey's Lights, choosing to join Blake Shelton's team. His journey on The Voice marked the beginning of a deeper connection with audiences who saw in him both resilience and rare talent. Born with music in his soul, Ryan began playing instruments at age 9 and poured his heart into every chord he struck. Before fame, he tirelessly played countless honky-tonk bars and festivals, earning fans one performance at a time. His career flourished after The Voice, with singles like Don't Put Me in a Box and Love with Nowhere to Go, showcasing not just his voice, but his vision as a storyteller. He also found a musical home in Las Vegas, performing regularly at Blake Shelton's Ole Red venue, where he built a community of listeners who felt every lyric he sang. Ryan's life, though marked by success, also held private struggles. In the final hours before his passing, those close to him shared that he had been facing personal challenges. Yet he remained deeply loved, described as passionate and inspiring by fans and fellow musicians alike. His fiancée was by his side in his final moments, a reflection of the close bond they shared. The music world mourns a voice now silent, but Ryan's legacy lives on in every fan who was moved by his songs and every artist he inspired. As his website once said, "Only those who see the invisible accomplish the impossible." Ryan saw dreams others couldn't and gave them a melody. Dave Allen, the innovative bassist and founding member of Gang of Four, passed away on April 5, 2025, at the age of 69. Known for his signature funk-infused bass lines that helped define the raw sound of post-punk, Allen was more than a musician. He was a pioneer whose artistry shaped generations. His bandmates, John King and Hugo Burnham, shared the news with broken yet full hearts, noting that he died peacefully at home, surrounded by loved ones, after battling early-onset mixed dementia. Formed in 1976 in Leeds, Gang of Four combined sharp political commentary with a rhythmically daring sound. Allen's bass work provided the heartbeat of iconic tracks like Damaged Goods and I Found That Essence Rare, elevating their 1979 debut Entertainment into a cornerstone of the genre. That album went on to inspire countless artists, from R.E.M. to Nirvana. Allen's chemistry with guitarist Andy Gill was electric. Together they turned dissonance into harmony, rebellion into rhythm. After leaving Gang of Four, Allen co-founded Shriekback, further exploring sonic possibilities with hits like Intoxication and Shark Walk. He later played with bands such as Low Pop Suicide and the Elastic Purejoy, and even founded the indie label World Domination Recordings. In his later years, he transitioned into the tech world, working at Intel, Beats, and Apple, always bringing a creative spirit to everything he touched. Allen's death echoes deeply in the music world. As his bandmates recalled, they shared one last afternoon filled with laughter and reflection, an affirmation of a friendship and musical journey spanning 5 decades. "We've been so very lucky," they wrote, "to have had the ace of bass in our lives." His music, ever vital and uncompromising, lives on. In every fierce rhythm and every honest lyric, Dave Allen's pulse continues to beat. Larry Tamblin, beloved musician and founding member of the Standalls, passed away on March 21, 2025, at the age of 82. Surrounded by family and fond memories, he left behind not just a rich musical legacy, but also a life lived fully, vibrantly, and in tune with the spirit of rock and roll. His nephew, Dennis Tamblin, shared the news with quiet reverence, remembering a man who kept his music alive well into his later years. Larry's passing in Georgia marked the end of an era, but also a celebration of a life that inspired countless listeners and musicians. Born in Los Angeles in 1943, Larry was part of an illustrious artistic family, brother to actor Russ Tamblin and uncle to actress Amber Tamblin. His own story, however, was uniquely his. From solo recordings in the 1950s to forming the Standells in 1962, Larry carved out his path with a bold voice and a magnetic stage presence. Dirty Water, the band's unforgettable 1966 anthem, not only climbed to number 11 on the Billboard charts, but became an enduring symbol of victory, still echoing through stadiums in Boston every time the Red Sox or Bruins win at home. Larry's career didn't fade with time. It matured. He brought the Standells back on tour in 2014 and released the album Bump in 2013. In 2023, his legacy was honored when he was inducted into the California Music Hall of Fame by his brother Russ, an emotional moment reflecting decades of dedication to his craft. A neighbor remembered him fondly. It was surreal. A garage rock legend from my youth lived just around the corner. That sentiment rings true for many. Larry Tamblin may have quietly departed, but the music, the memories, and the soul he poured into every note live on in the hearts of all who heard him. Alfred Clausen, the Emmy-winning composer whose lush orchestrations and biting musical parodies defined the emotional and comedic heartbeat of The Simpsons for nearly 3 decades, passed away on May 30, 2025, at his home in Valley Village, Los Angeles. He was 84. His daughter, Karen, confirmed the cause as progressive supranuclear palsy, a rare degenerative brain condition. Through over 550 episodes, from 1990 to 2017, Clausen didn't just accompany the world of Springfield, he gave it a soul, scoring laughs, pathos, and satire with a 35-piece orchestra in an era when most turned to synthesizers. Though he didn't compose the series' iconic theme, Clausen wrote every other musical moment that made The Simpsons more than a cartoon. From the Broadway flair of "We Put the Spring in Springfield" to the show-stopping "You're Checkin' In," his work garnered 2 Emmy wins and 28 nominations. Creator Matt Groening often referred to him as the show's secret weapon. Clausen once quipped, "I like to say I can make you feel 5 ways in 13 seconds," a testament to his ability to pivot between slapstick and sincerity with uncanny grace. Born in Minneapolis in 1941 and raised in North Dakota, Clausen's musical journey was as varied as his compositions, beginning with the French horn, transitioning from mechanical engineering to music theory, and ultimately moving to Los Angeles to score for TV and film. Before The Simpsons, he earned acclaim for Moonlighting and composed for ALF, jokingly noting no relation to the alien character. His versatility and orchestral instincts made him a rare breed in television scoring. Despite his controversial departure from The Simpsons in 2017 and a later lawsuit against Disney for age and disability discrimination, Clausen's impact remains indelible. His music still plays in the hearts of generations, reminding us that behind the laughter of cartoons lies a deep, resonant score, and a man who believed in real instruments, real emotion, and real storytelling. Gene "Groove" Allen, the magnetic rapper and actor best known for his role in the cult classic House Party, passed away unexpectedly at his home in Maryland on February 12, 2025. He was either 60 or 62, depending on varying sources. His daughter Nikki Wilkins confirmed the news, writing movingly that while the world may have known him as a star, to us he was the man who made sure we stayed smiling through this roller coaster we call life. The cause of his sudden passing has not been made public, but no foul play is suspected. Born in Long Island, New York, Alan rose to prominence in the 1980s as one-third of the hip-hop trio Groove B Chill, alongside Daryl Chill Mitchell and DJ Bilal Miller. Their single studio album Starting From Zero marked a moment in time, but it was their leap to film in House Party, 1990, and its sequel that cemented Alan's place in pop culture. His performances pulsed with the new Jack Swing spirit and undeniable charm that defined a generation. After stepping away from entertainment in the mid-1990s, following small roles in Boomerang and What's Love Got to Do With It, Alan dedicated his later years to community work. As president and CEO of Groove E Productions, he launched initiatives supporting military families and brought nostalgia to life through the House Party Immersive Tour. He never stopped performing. His final Instagram video, just days before his death, captured him rapping with contagious energy. 2025? I ain't playing. Gene Groove Allen's legacy lives on in every joyful dance, every throwback beat, and every fan who smiled watching him light up the screen. In his daughter's words, he was loved, needed, and leaves behind a rhythm that will never fade. Breaking news. There are voices that define decades, but then there are voices that go deeper. Ones that shape how we remember love, how we sit with loss, how we return to ourselves in moments of stillness. Linda Ronstadt's voice was never just about pitch or power. It was about something harder to name: truth. She did not just perform songs, she delivered emotion. Each note she sang seemed soaked in memory, in longing, in the ache and clarity of being fully alive. But behind that extraordinary gift was a woman many never truly saw. Not just the chart-topping artist, not just the Grammy winner. There was also a shy daughter, a watchful soul, a mother, a thinker, a woman whose deepest strength was not in how loudly she sang, but in how quietly she listened. Before the arena stages and platinum records, there was a little girl who clung to her mother's side at family gatherings, uncomfortable with being seen. Her eyes were always downcast, and she would later joke that her memories of early performances are tied not to the audience's cheers, but to the shoes she wore, because she spent most of those moments staring at her feet. That shyness never truly left her. It lived alongside the boldness of her voice, creating a paradox that made her artistry so compelling. She often said that she only sang music she had heard before the age of 10. That was her boundary, her compass. If it had not lived in her bones since childhood, she could not render it with authenticity. That kind of loyalty to one's emotional memory is rare in an industry built on reinvention. But for Linda, sound was sacred. She honored it by trusting her own history, her own ears. Her range defied the tidy boxes that critics and marketers tried to place her in. She was called a rock singer, a country star, a pop icon. And she did sing rock, with wild, unshackled energy. She sang country, with aching intimacy. She sang standards, operetta, lullabies, folk. But she never saw herself as a representative of any genre. She simply sang what felt honest. The music was not strategic. It was not built for trend or applause. It was memory, in motion. She was drawn to different styles because they lived inside her from childhood. She could hear a note and trace it back to a kitchen radio, to her father's records, to a dusty road on a hot Arizona afternoon. That is why her voice always carried something timeless. It was not borrowed. It was remembered. Her rise was not flashy. It was steady. One album after another, she built a body of work that was as emotionally varied as it was technically demanding. Her recordings felt lived in, like walking into a familiar room after years away. Whether she was whispering through a heartbreak ballad or soaring through a rock anthem, there was always a sense that she meant every word. And yet, she never seemed quite at home in the spotlight. Fame was something she navigated, not something she chased. While others craved attention, she seemed more comfortable on the edge of the frame, where the music was purer and the noise of celebrity did not cloud the air. Touring became a way of life. For over 2 decades, she lived on the road. The tour bus was her moving home, a capsule where creativity brewed and personalities clashed and fused. She likened it to being a sailor on a long voyage. Each city was a port, each stage a temporary dock. But the real life was inside the bus, where laughter rang late at night, where guitars passed from hand to hand, where music never stopped. She traveled mostly with male musicians, a reality she met not with resistance, but with practicality. She adapted. She swore more, joked more, toughened up. But beneath the surface, she always longed for a female companion, someone who could help her pack and unpack, someone who understood the rituals of being a woman on the road. When she could finally afford to bring one, it was a relief, not a luxury. But even in this unconventional life, she held to certain principles. She never crossed the line with band members. Rule number 1, she would say, do not mess around with the band. The dynamic on the road was too delicate, too intimate already. Adding romance would have tipped the boat. What she sought in music was not performance, but storytelling. Each song became a small film in her mind, and her voice was the narrator. She did not think in terms of sounding rock or sounding country. She thought in terms of what emotion the story required. Did it need tenderness, a scratchy edge, a gentle lift, or a raw drop? She made those decisions not with calculation, but instinct. And perhaps that is why her recordings have aged so well. They were not chasing a moment. They were rooted in something more lasting, emotional honesty. While many speculated about her personal life, about why someone so beloved never married, Linda was always clear. Marriage was never a calling. She admired the institution, she respected it, but she knew it was not meant for her. That kind of self-knowledge, especially in a woman under the spotlight, was radical in its own quiet way. She had meaningful relationships with powerful, brilliant men, but none of them changed her sense of self. She saw no reason to bend her life toward expectations that did not feel true. Instead, she chose a different path, one that she walked with full heart. In time, that path led her to motherhood. She adopted 2 children and stepped away from the stage to raise them. At a moment when many in her position might have clung to the spotlight, she turned inward. She left the noise of touring behind and filled her days with lullabies and lunches, story time, and silence. She did not see that as a sacrifice. It was simply what felt right. When the costs of private schooling became overwhelming, she returned to the road, but only during summers when the children could travel with her. To them, the tour bus was not a backstage pass to fame, but a place where they could watch television, something not allowed at home. To them, she was not a star. She was simply their mother, their guide, their warmth. Her daughter, for many years, did not even know her mother sang in English. Her memories were filled with Spanish songs and swirling skirts. Her son once asked, innocently, why she had never sung rock and roll. There is something deeply beautiful about that. To have built a career that defined American music, and to have children who know you only as comfort, not legend. But time, as it does, brought changes that no one could control. A rare neurological condition began to strip away the physical strength Linda had always relied on. Movements became harder. Singing became impossible. For a woman who had lived her life in sound, the silence could have been shattering. But Linda did what she had always done. She listened. She adapted. She found the song within. She began to sing in her mind, arranging harmonies in silence, conducting orchestras that no one else could hear. The music remained, though it had changed form. She did not view this transformation with bitterness. She saw it with clarity, with acceptance, with grace. Her voice, once projected through microphones, now echoed in memory, in the quiet corners of thought. in the hearts of those who had listened for so many years. She turned to writing, to sharing her story not through pitch, but through page. Her reflections became a way to stay connected, not to fame, but to meaning. She spoke openly about aging, about reflection, about the strange and sacred process of growing older. She acknowledged regrets, not in dramatic confession, but in gentle recognition. Life had unfolded in its own rhythm. Some doors closed, others opened. She made peace with the journey. There was a phrase she used: radical surrender. The idea that strength comes not from fighting what is, but from embracing it fully. She was not clinging to the past. She was holding hands with the present. In her later years, there is an image that captures her spirit best. A window, sunlight drifting in. Linda seated quietly, perhaps holding a cup of tea, perhaps watching the light dance across the floor. There is music still, though no longer sung aloud. It lives in her thoughts, in the lines of her face, in the air itself. And her legacy, that too sings. She changed what it meant to be a woman in music. She showed that tenderness was not weakness, that power could be quiet. She proved that artistry does not require spectacle, it requires truth. She reminded us that success can look like letting go, that fame means little if it costs your peace, that sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is walk your own path, even if no one else understands it yet. Her voice lives on in recordings, yes, but more than that, it lives in those who were moved by her songs. It lingers in long drives, in quiet mornings, in moments when only music can say what we feel. So the next time you hear Linda Ronstadt's voice, whether it is on a vinyl record, a digital playlist, or simply in memory, pause. Let it in. Not just the sound, but the soul behind it. Because hers was a voice that told the truth. And truths like that never really fade. If this story brought something meaningful to you, consider sharing it with someone who once fell in love to her songs. Tap like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you want more stories that honor the voices who shaped us. Linda's may no longer echo through concert halls, but it echoes still in all of us.